Fellow St. Lucians, this is the second part of our program, and we're going to start right back here. And I'm going to open a question to Mr. Wilson, and that is, why is it that all governments continue to put permanent secretaries with no understanding of the industry on the various aviation boards? The contribution they can make is nothing more than bureaucratic, whereas these individuals should be permitted or should be able to offer good advice, in line of how an airline should be run, how much money should be put in it, what routes to be flown, etc. And on that score, I asked Mr. Wilson to highlight that.
Well, I have always said that LEAD should be run along strict commercial lines. Now, for years, when LEAD, many years, 20, 25 years ago, we said we should protect LEAD, protect LEAD. But LEAD is an adult now. It has come through all these years. We should now, at this stage, after 60 years in this business, LEAD should be run strictly along commercial lines. Even if the airline is owned by governments, its board of directors must have a knowledge of what airline business is about. And I really find it, all those years, we continue to have people on these boards that know very little of airline management and what is required of them to be on such boards. The LEAD, for instance, they operate, I give an example, I mean, just recently to make a decision between whether we should keep the Dash 8 or whether we should move from the Dash 8 and go to the ATRs. And that discussion took a long time, and even now people are still arguing between themselves whether it should be the Dash 8, whether it should be the ATR. Some people feel they should have stayed with. The Dash 8 has, the Dash 8 has served these islands very well. It's a very good aeroplane in terms of the routes, some of the routes that LEAD fly. Some of these routes that LEAD has put Dash 8s on, they have lost because the Dash 8 really was not designed to fly some of the routes that we're asking them to fly. The ATR, to my mind, is a better operated aircraft to do these routes. And I'm talking about routes like Guyana, Port of Spain, Guyana, Antigua, Port of Spain, Antigua, St. Lucia, Guyana. These routes, you can operate these routes, and I'll come to fares in a minute. I think you can operate these routes with the type of aircraft that will bring you maximum dividends.
But question for you, Pepe. You are very correct because of the longer routes. Therefore, if these ATRs suit those routes, the smaller routes should have a different type of aircraft. I've been told, I'm not an aviation guy, that having two different kinds of aircraft becomes costly because you have to have spare parts and you have to have different types of crews to run. What is your take on that?
That is true. An airline should minimize the number of types it has in its fleet, obviously, because every fleet type you have to have a system of spares and maintenance people. But this situation is one that requires it.
Yes.
Because LEAD really, to my mind, and I talked about the 3 tiers of different airplanes and services, the operations between Martinique, St. Lucia, and as I said, these are the short routes. LEAD should enter into some arrangements with people like Inter-Caribbean Express in St. Lucia, SVGA out of St. Vincent. You have ABMA in Antigua. LEAD should, since they have given up a lot of these routes served by Twin Otters, and Twin Otters served us very well, but LEAD doesn't operate these types anymore. And where these Otters operated, you really cannot put Dash 8s there. This is one of the reasons why LEAD is having the kind of problems they're having in terms of revenue and costs. Because these aeroplanes run a lot of cycles, and by cycles I'm talking about landings and
right, that's what I'm told, yeah.
It's very costly, and this is why you're saying, but in this situation we have in the Caribbean, you need to have the smaller carriers that have the types of aircraft that can economically run these routes at a profit. So Liat should work with them to do that, especially as they have given up the types that they had to do it, and that there are people around. There's a company in St. Vincent, SVGA. They have two twin otters.
What do they do now?
They use them mainly in the Grenadines, and they also use them to do charters. But they're not doing very well, and they actually, Montserrat is trying to work something out with them now to operate between Montserrat and Antigua, because the people would like something bigger than an island. Though.
Yeah, and also, Pepe, between Martinique and St. Lucia, and say Dominica and St. Lucia. St. Lucia could be a sort of little semi-hub for Dominica, whereby that those airlines, they could be used even on a twice daily basis. Would that be possible?
It is possible, and in fact,
why has it not been done?
Well, of course, you have to look at the LIAT, its management, what what targets they aim for. I really can't say. I'm not on the board. I'm not there. I cannot say. But you see a lot of areas where LIAT services can be improved. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the fares. Now, as I said earlier, LIAT provides a service that we all need, and you must have a LIAT, because we need to move around these islands. If we depend on boat to move around these islands, it would not work. A businessman would not want to take a boat to do a one-day business in Barbados.
I for one, am not taking a boat.
Okay. So that LIAT now should position itself in such a way that it would provide that type of service and do it at a cost that people will fly. Take, for example, you want to fly to Trinidad and Tobago on LIAT. The basic fare of LIAT, the basic fare before taxes, may just be about $350, $400 UC. By the time you add all the taxes on this, it's about $800. And quite frankly, this is high. You need to bring this fare down to a point where people will be able to use what I think economists call discretionary income, to be able to fly to these places. For cricket, for instance, there's a one-day taking place in St. Lucia. Barbadian might say, well, look, I want to come to St. Lucia and come in the morning.
But he's not going to come and pay $1,000.
He would not pay that because it's too high.
Now, let me ask you a question about the taxes. Let us say there's a flight between, say, St. Lucia and Trinidad. Are the taxes equal? Is there a pattern for taxes where they say so much percentage?
I think a couple of taxes are system-wide. For instance,
because you have the
security tax.
Yeah.
The
development
tax. That, although in some cases it's different. But you have taxes like the ticket tax.
Yes.
That is different in islands. You also have the airport service charge, the airport tax you pay, the departure tax. Yeah, right. That is different. You also have an incoming tax that arriving passengers pay a tax. Yeah. That also is different.
While we're sitting here talking about taxes, something is going through my mind. Could there not be one island which becomes responsible for those taxes, and they say, okay, fine, we need to collect, we have so many flights per year, okay, and we will need X million dollars, and kind of reduce it so that each island budgets for that, to be able to reduce those times, because I couldn't agree with you more. The more people that travel, the more revenue you can have, and not only that, the greater the economic activity will be, because people will be able to move and link themselves between the islands far easier, far quicker, and more, what's the word should I say, economically, but I don't know if that's ever going to come to pass. I mean, you take Trinidad, for instance. Trinidad is blessed with very big oil reserves. They are a wealthy nation, okay? Now, while we're talking about taxes and airlines, I've felt for a very long time that all the political jargon that's going on and egoistical shenanigans that are taking place, we should be able to join forces with Trinidad, because they are supplying fuel to their airlines at 1/3 the price that we are supplying. So you're getting a double whammy. You're getting the taxes and you're getting the fuel. Now Caribbean Airlines can fly cheaper than us because of the fuel. On that score alone, should not the islands, put all their political, what word should I use there, differences behind and get together with Trinidad? Now earlier you mentioned to me a situation why that is not happening. Can you highlight that?
Well, let's take the last point first. I know the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has taken up the matter of the fuel taxes with the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And I think that the discussions are still ongoing, whereby, and he's right, that as a CARICOM grouping, Trinidad being a member of CARICOM, they have the oil, they really should not be, and I think, I'm not a lawyer, but I think what has happened, it runs contrary to the Chaguaramas agreement, whereby the, BWI really should not enjoy a price on fuel
as an advantage
to that of Liat. So I know he has taken up this matter. I do not know what is the conclusion of it as yet. In fact, someone told me that the Trinidad and Tobago, what happened, I'm not sure about this, but what happened is they have actually included the tax for BWI as well. So that doesn't help Liat. I think what has happened, if that is true, that the tax is now being imposed on Caribbean Airlines. But be that as it is, one must understand that the fare that we pay on Liat, a lot of that fare is not something Liat has any control
over. Yeah.
As OCS states, I think they should come together and find a way to sort of generate more traffic from these islands, let more people fly. They must come to a realization that these taxes are a bit burdensome for people. The fares are too high, and a lot of the fare come up with the taxes.
I'll tell you something. You mentioned something a while ago concerning running an airline on a business line. You are so right, because what has happened now is that I have talked to one or two prime ministers and have mentioned this over the years. And what they have said to me is that, Liat is not paying the landing fees on time, and they have outstanding fees, which every so often they have to write off. But then one of the reasons why Liat is not paying, because they don't have the money to pay. As you said, it starts from initially choosing the right routes, ensuring, as you indicated earlier, after 60 years, one should know the islands have not changed their location. They are still so many miles apart. You should know what it costs to run. By now, you know how many passengers moving from A to B, from B to C, C to D, and you have to work it out, and as you said, put in the right aircrafts. But then again, all the islands should be involved with Liat and having a say, because it is to all our advantage. I know for a fact that St. Lucia has not, over the years, participated financially, because I think both prime ministers were unhappy of the situation. So at this point in time, what I think has to be done is that they need to bring on board some very strong arbitrators to get these islands together. Let us get the accounting side of it and say, look, this is what's going to happen, and you must get those small operators in place to fly the routes like Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, or St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and as you said, Nevis and Montserrat and those places. This is Open Mic. We're ending our second segment of the first program. We'll be right back.